Our bodies, being a fat burning machine, are not what you think. However, the first thing I'm going to look at if I've plateaued for 2 months is, am I actually tracking food correctly? Because we tend to get ambivalent and we have this sense of false confidence that we can just eyeball things. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. Before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you don't want to miss any content that's being dropped, make sure you hit that notification bell as well. I also want to know who are the people you want to hear from on this show and what topics would you like me to continue to cover. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now, let's get into the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection. I'm so glad to have you here. And in today's episode, I am answering all of your questions. Now, if you're wondering, where, Christina, can I ask questions about perimenopause, weight loss, exercise, the best nutrition, the best whatever, you can join me in my Facebook group, the Women's Weight Loss and Support Group. Please join me there. I want our listeners to be there. This group had thousands of women in it, but it doesn't have the zhuzh that I want. We get a lot of good questions, but I want to know your questions. So I will put a link in the show notes below. But we're just going to get into it. We're going to get into the questions from the Facebook group. So for those of you listening in the Facebook group, someone asked, I put a poll and everyone wanted to do some sort of weight loss challenge in there. So we're going to be running like a 28-day, as I'm calling it, flat belly challenge, which is going to really be focusing on like managing gut health and inflammation and all of those things. So if you're interested in that, we'll also be running that in that group. Okay. So first question is how to build a booty or your glute muscles at home. What equipment do you suggest? What exercises and what food? So this is always a great question. Women want to build their butts, but they think that they are going to build a butt in a calorie deficit. But let me just go by each one. So this is for you, Megan, in our group. Equipment that we want is some sort of resistance. So that can be resistance bands, that could be dumbbells, that could be kettlebells, that can be barbells, right? Or even a TRX. But if we're going to build the glutes, we do need to put more resistance on that muscle. So any sort of resistance style equipment is going to be helpful. Now, the exercises specifically is obviously where we're going to stretch and contract our glute muscle. So Brett Contreras is the founder, if you will, or inventor of the hip thrust. The thing about the hip thrust that I want you guys to understand is that a lot of people think that it's the squeeze at the top. Yes, that's true, but really it's the stretch at the bottom, right? That's why you're kind of lifted up. So you feel that stretch at the bottom of the exercise of those glutes. And then as you come up, you're going to scoop those hips up and take that contraction and squeeze at the top. We're not overextending at the top either. And then we stretch. Every single exercise has this stretch contract, and we don't talk about it enough because that stretch and contraction is all a part of the movement, but people will do like these half reps and they're not getting that part of it. So movements, your hip thrust, whether that's kettlebell, barbell, or dumbbell, you're going to do, I love the curtsy lunge, which really activates the outside of your glutes. You can do forward walking lunges or even just forward lunges. When we think about like a Bulgarian split squat, a walking lunge or a static lunge, even a step up, the difference between quad focused is a quad focused, our weight is going to be shifted back over our hips. Whereas glute focus, we're going to shift forward. So we're going to have a forward lean, and that's going to activate more of those glutes. So all of those exercises are great for glute activation. If you're more advanced, things like Nordic curls are a motherfucker, and they will activate your glutes, or like 45-degree hyperextensions, holding a dumbbell or kettlebell at your chest here. Glute kickbacks, but not the way that you think. When we say kickback, people literally kick their leg back, and then it's doing a lot more damage on the hip flexors, and it is not working. The glutes. We want to, again, what I like to do is actually bring my foot a little bit forward from where I'm standing. So my standing foot might be here and my forward foot here. Why? I want to feel that stretch. I want to feel that stretch in my glute, and then I'm going to kick back until I feel full activation of my glute. If I kick back too much, where am I going to feel it? In my lower back. So oftentimes I'm usually just kicking at around a 90-degree angle, maybe even shorter than that. So glute kickbacks with the cable machine are really helpful. So then food. As I've talked about many times on this podcast, we have to eat to build. You will not build in a calorie deficit. That's a calorie deficit is catabolic. It actually is breaking down fat. And if we're not prioritizing protein and resistance training, it's also going to break down muscle. So if we're looking to build our glutes, we have to do it at maintenance, or more, what's going to help you get there faster is in a calorie surplus. About 200 to 300 calories over your maintenance, I think, would be a good place to start. And focusing on lean proteins. A lot of people can do this wrong. They think, oh, I have all these calories, I'll just eat whatever I want. Yeah, you could do that, but you're probably going to put on more fat than muscle. So eating 1.3 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, and really focusing on whole natural foods. That doesn't mean you can't have the treats, but we do need to eat either at maintenance or a calorie surplus, because we're building tissue. That's incredibly important. We're not breaking down tissue, which is a calorie deficit. So those are the things that I would do, and take time. Here's the thing, guys. That shit takes years. Years. And I'm not making that up. I've been trying for a very long time to get this glute ham connection that really defines where my glutes and my hamstrings meet. Still working on it. And I've been strength training for a long time. So thank you, Megan. That's for you. Okay. This is Chastity from our Facebook group. She says, I need help. I've been writing the 200 mark for like 2 months. The diet, not the workouts, are helping me break through the mark. Any advice on something that'll help kick my body back into a fat burning machine? Thank you, Chastity. And our bodies being a fat burning machine are not what you think. However, the first thing I'm going to look at if I've plateaued for 2 months is, am I actually tracking food correctly? Because we tend to get ambivalent, and we have this sense of false confidence that we can just eyeball things. I about this a lot, actually, because clients will get this kind of lackadaisical with their tracking because they've been doing it for a good amount of time, but they're still in the conscious competence phase. They have to consciously do it in order for it to be successful, but they think they're unconsciously competent, like it's a default. And they won't track their bites, licks, and tastes. They'll track after the fact. They'll track that at the end of the day and try to remember everything. Or they just don't realize how many calories are in certain things, and they won't track them. Like, I'll see people track a meal for like a meal out, and then I'll say, hey, where did you eat that meal out? And I'll go to that website and I'll look at the ingredients, and their ingredients are usually like the main fixtures, right? So like the filet, the potato, and maybe the Brussels sprouts, but not knowing that the filet has blue cheese on it, not knowing that the potato has butter and sour cream on it, and not tracking that stuff. A calorie deficit is only 500 calories from your maintenance. A calorie deficit that will be where you won't lose as much muscle as fat. A calorie deficit that's conservative. Now, other people will be like, well, I want to lose more than that. Great. Try it and see how quickly it comes back on. 500 calories. That's the game changer. And honestly, for some people, 250 to 500 calories. But with that said, the more conservative your calorie deficit, the easier it is to eat back those calories. meaning you are not actually in a deficit. You might even be in a surplus. So the first thing I'm going to look at, are you tracking consistently? Are you tracking accurately? Okay. The next thing I'm going to look at is your activity levels. Now, your activity levels aren't the fat burning machine. You burn fat in a calorie deficit, and also choice of foods after a certain age is really important with that. That's where fat burning happens. You know what drives my clients absolutely crazy is they're eating clean and doing all the workouts, but they don't see the weight budge. Their sleep is all over the place. Their hormones are through the roof, and they feel like they're going crazy.
Yeah, it's frustrating because 9 out of 10 times it's something hormone related that no one's looking at. It's perimenopause, menopause. Our biology internally has shifted, but no one's changing the strategy as far as approach.
What if perimenopause support included like therapeutic guidance, nutrition, exercise, and hormonal support all in one place?
Seriously, it would be great if you didn't have to track down like 10 different experts just to feel like yourself again.
That's why I created the Mindset of Menopause and have partnered with Dr. Jordan Trapp to create a comprehensive plan to your hormonal health.
Together, we are making medical insight meet emotional strategy. So your symptoms make sense, your plan actually works, and your power comes back online.
This isn't just support. This is your comeback season.
Click below for more information.
However, the more muscle you have on your body, the better fat burning you are. So going between calorie deficits where we burn the fat and calorie maintenance or surplus where we build the fat burning muscle, if you will, is incredibly important. But we also want to look at movement, because say that prior to this 2-month plateau, you were walking every day 10,000 steps or 8 to 10,000 steps, or you strength train 3 days a week and hit 6,000 steps. And now these past 2 months, life is getting lifey and your movement, has decreased. That's incredibly important because now your total energy you're burning in a day is lower. So then that would make your deficit lower. So if you've changed your movement over a period of time, I'd say over 4 weeks, and the average step count, the average exercise that you're doing or workouts has decreased, you'll need to adjust your calorie intake. That's incredibly important. I say over the course of 4 weeks because some of you will think, oh, but I'm going on vacation. Does that mean that I need to eat? No, it's not how it works. You don't need to eat less on vacation just because you're not moving as much. If you get back to your workouts when you get back from vacation, it's fine. But that's that. The other thing is sleep and recovery. If we want to be a fat burning machine, we need to recover. We don't need to overdo it because recovery is where all of this occurs, right? Recovery is where our bodies are going to build that muscle back. Recovery is where our body's going to use energy to rebuild our intestines and our heart health, calm our brain from the day, right? And so we need to make sure we're incorporating rest days and we are trying to have a sleep routine so that we can recover during the night. It's incredibly important. And then lastly, managing our stress. Stress and high cortisol keeps blood sugar in your body. Too much blood sugar in the body can increase the likelihood of insulin resistance, which actually promotes storing fat. Okay. So stress management is also going to be really important. So I would look at all of those areas and kind of determine like, where are you in each of those areas? And then see which one has the, like, you're like, okay, if there was one that I would do first, it would be looking over how you're tracking food, the quality of food that you're eating, and the accuracy of tracking both. That's going to be number one. So that would be how I get out of the 200 mark for the past 2 months. Okay, this one is Rebecca from our Facebook group, and she says, I've been changing how I'm eating and exercising. The scale is showing I'm losing weight, but my pants are fitting way tighter. If I don't wear a pair of pants for about a week or so, they are tight or too small. It's my stomach, hips, and lower back that's too tight in the pants. Does anyone know why this could be happening and what could be done about it? Well, depending on your training, you may be seeing a little bit more like shape in your glutes, shape in your quads, right? You could also just be drying your pants, Lauren. When I dry my pants, they fit tighter, and I've got to do the like walk around the house to see if I can stretch them out some. So first thing I would check is, are you just wearing recently dried pants? Because that's probably why. If you're losing weight, but your pants are fitting differently, again, it could be that you're creating some shape if you're doing resistance training. That's the whole point of resistance training, is to develop those glutes, those quads. And that's a good thing. That's why we say we have fit girl problems, because that's true for me. My glutes and my quads will be tight in the pants, but my waist will be kind of loose. My waist will be loose, but the shirt around my lats will be tight, or my arms, right? And I'm fairly lean, but it could feel like my shirts get real tight on these arms, especially if I work them out a lot. So I wouldn't say it's a problem for you. If you're seeing weight loss, if you're feeling more energized, you're being consistent with the changes that you're making, eating and exercising, eating well and exercising, then stay consistent, right? Over time, with more fat loss, you will see your, not only your pants fit better, you may even see you lose some dress sizes over the period of time. Just be patient with it. Okay, my last one is from an anonymous member, and it says, "Hi, new to group. I'm dealing with pelvic floor tightness. I'm working with the PT on this, but my glutes and my thighs are weak. Anyone have any tips?" Absolutely. This is something I've been working on myself, as we can struggle with incontinence and other bladder issues as going into perimenopause. And as I talked about earlier with the glute bridge and the hip thrusts, we really want to focus on activating that glute muscle. So the exercises are going to be the same. Your glute bridges, single leg glute bridge, your hip thrust, single leg hip thrust. I do some other like walkouts, glute walkouts, do pelvic tilts, whether that's lying down in a quadruped position or on the wall is helpful for me. Dead bugs and bird dogs more than dead bugs, are super helpful as well. And really what we want to do is slow these things down. One other thing that you can do is put a foam roller underneath your back if you're lying down, and try to kind of do that glute bridge in a smaller position. I really focus on stretch and contract. You could put your hand on that muscle to really feel it contract. And again, this is going to take time for you to do. This is why we suggest working with a pelvic PT, which this person is doing. And her question was, you cut the space. And her question was like, can that be done with a tight pelvic floor? Yes, we want to also work on like diaphragmatic breathing with that, right? Where if you think about your diaphragm as a cylinder, right? We're breathing out, pushing down, and breathing in, bringing it back up. And with diaphragmatic breathing, the easiest way to do it is when you breathe in, your belly's the only hand that moves. If you can't see me on YouTube, I have one hand on my chest and one hand on my belly. When we breathe in, the hand on our chest should not move. When we breathe out, we're pushing it back down. In, out. Sorry for those listening in headphones. Sorry for those listening who are wearing headphones. The idea is to really focus on the movement with the breath. And I'm going to tell you, as someone working on this currently, it's going to take time. That's why, again, working with a pelvic floor therapist is really helpful. But it can be done. It's going to take time. It's going to take that mind-body connection. My greatest advice is do those exercises. I'd start with a booty band so that we're not focused on the weight and where it's sitting and all of that. Just really focus on activating those glutes. And like I said, putting your hand on that muscle will make the brain listen to that muscle more, mind-body connection. So slow it down, really think about feeling that stretch and feeling that contraction. We want to feel both of them. That's going to be super helpful. And we want to focus on that diaphragmatic breathing while we're doing that, connecting the breath with the movement, and doing that over time will help you not only release some of that pelvic floor tightness, but also increase your strength in your glutes. So awesome. Perfect, guys. Well, like I said, if you're interested in asking questions, you can join our Facebook group. join my Facebook group, I should say. I say ours. Sorry, I just hit the microphone. I say ours a lot because I'm so used to that. Join the Facebook group. Again, it's called Women's Weight Loss and Workout Support. We are currently crushing it with 7,300 members, but I love to have you guys on because you guys just get the way we work, the way we move. I love to see more interactions from our listeners on that page. Like, give some advice. We want to see you there. We're also probably going to be running that 28-day challenge. I'm calling it a flat belly challenge because, to be honest, the group is a bit more geared towards like that mentality. I try to teach them along the way that what you say in the mind, you see in the mirror, right? But you guys, it's an open group, so we get a lot of levels of expertise or lack thereof when it comes to health and wellness, and that's okay. That's why people are there. So I hope that you found this helpful. Maybe a question that was asked is something that you're dealing with. But again, if you have any questions, please go to the group and ask them on the group page. Or if you're in our self-guided program, there is a link in the resources tab for Q&Heyyy. If you're not in any of those, I will post a Q&A on my Instagram today. Well, you're not going to hear it every Sunday. I'm going to post a Q&A on my Instagram, and I will ensure that your questions get answered. Please, please, please. I would love to have you guys on to answer your questions directly. So if you're interested in doing a live call, you can comment below or catch me on Instagram, DM me directly, whatever that is, and we will get you on. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining me. If you haven't already, make sure to follow or subscribe anywhere you're listening or watching this podcast. And I'm going to leave you like I always do and remind you, what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.